stop Islam now in your prison system, or you're going to lose control of your country. Because the most hardened, toughened men and lifelong criminals are converting to Islam. They're building an army within the prison system. And this is happening in America. All the blacks are going to convert. You need to stop it. All the blacks are going to convert. They're going to convert. Your black prison gangs are going to become black jihadist gangs.
You've spent months and months in prison recently. Was there anything about that prison experience that you'd say was good?
Yes, there definitely was. It was the opportunity for me to see within the prison system. I literally got to talk to every prison officer in the jail. And I'm a journalist, yeah? And I'm inquisitive and I want to know what's happening. Every day I'd ask questions. I'd understand what's happening. I'd understand the situation, the facilities, everything around the prison. I had the best experience a journalist could ever have in understanding just how bad the situation is with Islamic radicals and the control that Islamists have of our prison system and why they have that control and how it works. For example, the staff would tell me, because whilst I was in Woodhill, a prison officer was stabbed in the neck, again by a Muslim. A prisoner was beheaded in Woodhill prison 7 years ago. On the yard, they cut his head off. 3 Muslims cut another prisoner's head off. It probably don't even make our news, yeah? But what's happening within the prison system, the security services say 800 radicals are coming out a year. If you're in America and you're watching this, stop Islam now in your prison system, or you're going to lose control of your country. Because the most hardened, toughened men and lifelong criminals are converting to Islam. They're building an army within the prison system. Now, the way it works in the prison system is the brothers, which is the Muslims, run everything. No one can touch them. The prison I was in was 40% Muslim population, 50% of the prison.
37.
37, okay. I've over-exaggerated massively.
37.
37%, 50% of the prisoners are in there for murder. 37%, what's the Muslim population of the UK?
A few percent.
Yet the prison's 37%. What's going on?
And it's not just Woodhill, because I actually have the statistics here. Feltham is 42% of the prison population.
Onley, where I was before, was 33%.
Whitemoor is 43%. So Belmarsh is 32%.
So the dispersals and the maximum securities are where everyone's converted. Now, there was an attempt to resist this, yeah, from a prison called Frankland. Frankland was known as the last bastion where English prisoners could go without being dominated and ruled by the Islamic gangs. And there was a resistance formed called the Piranha Gang. And it was set up of English prisoners who tried to fight against the Islamic takeover of the jail. Those English prisoners are currently stuck in basements of prisons. They've spent 2 years, 3 years, 4 years in solitary confinement. They're not allowed into any prison because they'll be dead, because there's fatwas put on them within the prison system. So just like me, when I got to Woodhill prison, they said, we can't put you anywhere. You're going to have to be on solitary confinement because you're going to get murdered. Well, these poor British men that tried to resist, and I spoke to the staff. So, for example, the man who set up the Piranha Gang, who's currently residing in a segregation unit of a prison, stuck on solitary confinement for years, losing his mind, when he set it up, I spoke to other prison staff who said, he wasn't against Muslims. I was with him in Frankland. When the Muslims were bullying and converting and forcefully intimidating and attacking everyone, they stood up to them. They fought them. But because they fought them, the word went across the whole prison system that they must be killed. He goes, and now they've got fatwas, they can't go into the prison system. So then they smashed the English gang and let the Islamic radicals take over every single prison in the country. Every prison. And what happens, which is what all the prison, I was interviewing the staff about it, they said, if we stood up to the Muslim brothers in the prison, but if we went and arrested him and raided his cell, they just put a hit on us. They put a hit on us. So one of us would just be walking down the prison wing, would get stabbed in the neck.
Why do you think Islamists or these Muslim prison gangs are more effective at organising within a jail?
Because they're a brotherhood, not just in a jail. Growing up, do you know when you're growing up in Luton, say you walk out of a nightclub and there's a fight between Muslims and non-Muslims, sure. They get out of every car. They come out of the chicken shops. I mean, like what's happened? They just come from everywhere. They don't know each other. They do not know each other. They automatically are a brotherhood. Yeah, and they fight for each other. It's like when you was at school, you had a fight with one of them, you might as well have declared war on the whole tribe. And then when you get outside school, say we're 13 years old, and a couple of English lads are fighting a couple of the Pakistanis at school at lunchtime. By the time you get outside the school gates, there's 50 men. We don't act like that. We're not a gang mentality. When you see, do you know, you're from Poland, yeah? When the Polish come to Luton, you see a Polish man, he's walking with a Polish woman, yeah? You see a Pakistani man, he's walking with 10 other men. It's a male-dominant culture. The women are not there. It's like they're literally waiting for something to happen. When they're in cars, they just come from everywhere. So the prison system is no different. Say you've got 100 prisoners on the wing. They only need 10, because those 10 will stick together like shit. You mess with one, you mess with every one of them. They are militant, and then their messages get spread from one prison to the other, usually by the imams. The imams pass the messages around. If someone, say for example, the Ukrainian who was beheaded in Wood Hill, he had an incident in another prison. By the time he landed in the next prison, he just gets done straight away. So there was an incident, and I heard all the prison staff talking to me about how it works. And the prison actually understood that it was Muslim lawyers that were passing the messages on. So Muslim lawyers would go from one prison to the other prison, get him, he's done this. English lads are just getting hurt day in, day out. Day in, day out, everywhere. There's no resistance anymore to them. No one can fight them. There's too many of them. If prisoners had the music on, they're getting beat up. You can't put the music on when it comes to Friday prayers, when it comes to anything. Like basically, they're Sharia compliant wings now. People are forced.
There's a lot of articles available online in reputable media. I mean, we're talking about the Times, the Telegraph, even the Guardian. If you go back a few years, they were warning about the Islamist takeover of jails. I think there's an article in the Guardian from 2008 that talks about this quite openly. And yet, nothing's been done with it.
Do you know why?
What you're saying is you've just been to jail and it's worse than ever?
It's worse than ever. And it's not just worse than ever. You'll hear from the staff. It's insane.
So talk me through about your contact with the staff. How did the prison staff react to having you as a prisoner?
They were brilliant with me.
Were they white British? Were they
No,
Muslims?
they were.
What was the demographic breakdown of the guards?
I met 2 Muslim staff there, and they were great to me. The Muslim, Mr. Khan, they were great to me. You know, in America, when they see the military, they give them a round of applause. Mm-hmm. Next time you see a prison staff officer, walk over and shake their hand. No one understands what they're dealing with. The level of threat and violence and the attacks that are happening now against prison staff is insane. They're being butchered across the whole country. They're being butchered. It only makes the news. So the attack in Wood Hill, you know Salman Abedi? So in these separation centres, I'm in segregation, and they take me each day to a separation centre which is built for the jihadists within the prison. Yeah. And this is where they're meant to take them to stop them radicalising. Well, when I went there, I walked on this wing. It's like a travel lodge. Yeah? The rooms have got built-in mirrors, wardrobes. Now, my cell had a blue mat. I had a blue mat. That's it. Yeah. And I'm looking through the windows of these cells going, they've got everything. They've got a kitchen with a big cooker, a fridge freezer, an air fryer, a toaster, a sandwich maker. This is specifically built for the terrorists. So the terrorists have got the best facilities out of anyone. No one else has got this. The jihadists have got this, yeah? So I'm looking at it. They had a wall, the whole size, a massive wall, which was an Islamic library of every single hadith you can think of. And I was like, this is why they're here. They're in here because of these books. You're now giving them all these books. And then in there, they've got a pool table, a snooker table, a table tennis, table football. They've got all these things. Then none of them are on solitary confinement. So I'm on solitary confinement, and I'm looking thinking, I don't have cooking facilities. I have nothing. How come they've got all this? They're the terrorists. Axel Ridder-Cabana, he hasn't done a day on solitary confinement. They're not allowed to put them on solitary confinement. How am I, for a civil offence of playing a film, sat on solitary confinement while they're given total free rein? They control everything. Everyone's scared of them. They're not getting no hassle. Axel Ridder-Cabana ain't going to get hurt in jail. None of them are.
So do you think that this is happening because of the willingness of these organised radical Muslims leveraging their willingness to be violent against prison staff,
totally.
Their ability to leverage activist lawyers on the outside? So it's like a nexus of elements, but a lot of it is to do with their willingness to use violence within the jails themselves.
And then the jail governor's going for the easy option of just saying, give them what they want. Just give them what they want. Just stand back. Let them run the place. Okay. And by letting them run the place, what that means is vulnerable non-Muslims are being bullied, converted. So basically, when it comes to the food, Muslims run everything. So the people doing all the servery will be all the bearded Muslims. Yeah. When the Muslims come up to get their dinner, they're getting loads of dinner. When the non-Muslims are coming up, it's getting a little bit of nothing. So everyone, if you want to get a nice food, if you want to get anything, you better convert. And then slowly they make them convert. They force them to.
So essentially the benefits of converting are
protection,
outweigh the pain of not being a convert.
You're just being bullied and beat up unless you convert. And there's so many people explaining this now. And do you know what? If the prison system wanted to deal with it, separate Muslims and non-Muslims. That's what you need to do. You need to make sure all the non-Muslim car thieves or drug dealers who are going to jail are protected from being bullied, radicalised, converted. What Islam does, it takes men who have been wronged their whole life. And this is happening in America. All the blacks are going to convert. You need to stop it. All the blacks are going to convert. They're going to convert your black prison gangs, are going to become black jihadist gangs. You need to stop it. I've seen it in Luton. All the young black gangs, they're all now Muslim. There's 2 gangs in the UK in Birmingham called the Johnsons and the Burger Boys, where they used to just be black Afro-Caribbean gangs. Now they're just black Muslim gangs, and they're running everything. And Islam becomes the dominant force. And what it does, it takes people who have been wronged their whole life, who don't lack family, lack all these things, and it gives them a sense of identity, brotherhood, belonging. It gives them a cause, and the cause is to fight the system, because Islam will fight against the system, fight against Britain, fight against everything. So it's a dangerous, dangerous cocktail situation that no one's addressing. And why aren't they addressing it? Because they're too scared to admit the problem. The problem is you need to separate Muslims and non-Muslims, and that's a reality.
Did you pray when you were in solitary confinement?
When I was I met a great pastor in the prison, a brilliant man, which is rare in the Christian church in the UK, to find someone who you can relate with. You know, Muslims, the imams are just lads. So when the imams can relate with you, they talk to you. They're just like, they talk like me, they act like me. The Christian priest is usually about 80 years old and has got nothing in common with me. Well, this priest did. And I think he was a great representative of Christianity within the prison system. And I guarantee you his church is full in that Woodhill. So I related with him, which is a start. I also have looked deeply over the last few years about what it is we're fighting for and what made Britain and what did make Britain. Christianity. We're a Christian culture. Whether you want to believe in Jesus or not, you have to accept. And as I started reading the Bible, I accepted and understood, because I'd never read the Bible. I read the Quran before I read the Bible. I wrote my own Quran before I'd even looked at the Bible, because I hated the Catholic Church because of the paedophile thing. My mum was a Catholic, and I hated the priests and I hated the representation, but I've never gone down. And then I look at what's happened to Britain, and it's because a void has been filled. We've lost faith, lost culture, lost identity since the attack on the church. And I don't blame people for disliking the church, because they've sold us out, they've betrayed us. But that doesn't mean Christianity us. And there was an interview with the Queen that said, "What made Britain?" And she held up the Bible. And then, so as I looked deeply, and in our demonstrations in the Unite the Kingdom rallies, I saw someone holding up a sign saying "Christ is King," and I watched as the crowds erupted. And I've started looking recently at the statistics and they've quadrupled the statistics of young men in Britain going to church. We're trying to find out who we are, and they don't want us knowing who we are and where we come from. And we're Englishmen, and there's 1,000 years of Christian history in this country, 1,000 years, and they've destroyed it and gave it away in 60. And we either decide now what our future looks like. Does it look Christian? Does it look like our ancestors? Is that our culture and our way of life? Or are we going to surrender and succumb to Islamic ideology, communist ideology, all these other ideologies which are masquerading? So it's up to us to make a decision where we go. But I think at our next event, do you know how many priests now are contacting me that want to talk at our event? When we used to have events, the priests were with the Islamists. They were over there holding up signs about diversity, flying rainbow flags and that. So something huge is happening across Europe, across the West. And I think that when the population realise just what they've done to this country, when fathers sit and realise the safety of their daughters has gone, what they have imported into this country, what they've taken from us, our children are going to grow up in a totally different society than we grew up. And it's right now, we're in a pivotal moment in our country's history where we either come together, we send a message to the establishment. I don't know if we're voting our way out of this, but I don't know if we can vote our way out of this. Not with what we face in Britain, but I think that the time is now. I think that when you look at what happened 12 months ago with the Southport incident and the riots, instead of listening to every town and city's people that were angry, and many of them don't know how to, when I was 25 years old, I didn't know how to express my anger. I was one of the people who run through the streets. I was one of those men, angry, young, betrayed. It's about us trying to show those young men the right way to channel that anger. And the right way is not to give the establishment what they want. What they want is you covering your face. What they want is you acting aggressively, because then they can bring in more law and they can put you aside as far right, as racist, as extremists. So I think we're in a pivotal moment, and I think the next 12 months are going to be, I sense, and I've said it, a revolution is brewing in Great Britain. I mean a revolution. Something that I don't think the establishment quite understand the feeling of emotion that's there. I see it when I walk down the street. I see people coming up to me in tears. I see people understanding. People are reading, looking, listening. They weren't ready 10 years ago. They wouldn't listen to us. Now the public's ready.